I cheated, and my husband knows everything. Not because he found out, but because I told him. And funny enough, it makes our bond grow stronger. Welcome to Comfort Food Confession. Let me take you back to when I was 18. I had my very first real serious relationship. We were young. He was a really sweet guy, real supportive, just a general nice guy, you know. We dated for about a year before I moved to California, where we had to do a long distance relationship for another 2 years before everything went downhill. It was a very long 2 years of just trying to stay connected. We'd scheduled FaceTime, and we have to take into account the time difference, where Florida was 3 hours ahead, and he works night shift. So when he was waking up, I was ending my day. It was working for a little bit until life got a little messy on my end. My aunt and my dad, back at the time, was having serious beef with each other, and it feels like it was bleeding onto me because my dad is still in Thailand, and so I'm the only connection to my dad that my aunt has here, and she was giving me a very, very hard time constantly every single day. I'd just be coming home from school and there's just one way or another issues. It was a really tough time, and especially when I was a young adult, I was going through just trying to figure out life, starting college. Everything was different. I just moved from Thailand to Florida to California. Everything was changing, everything was different. It was a little chaotic, and now just that extra layer of stress adding on top. Home did not feel safe. Like, I never looked forward to coming home because I know one way or another there was going to be an argument about stupid little things. A little argument, a little disagreement could turn into something that would just get me into a screaming match with her. I felt like I didn't have anyone there because majority of the family that I grew up with was still in Thailand. I just felt really lonely. I felt like I didn't have anyone to turn to, which is the root cause of a lot of the bad decisions that I went through with. Not to excuse it, it is inexcusable, but just a little context. I went to school for film production, and so we, as students, try to make connections. We usually just go to student film sets to help each other out and, make connections that way. And at this one particular production set, I met a boy who eerily looked like my boyfriend at the time. Long blonde hair, a little bit curly, blue eyes, tall, and it was just eerily similar, but it gives me a sense of comfort because I couldn't have my boyfriend at a time in person. I couldn't touch him. I couldn't feel him. There was no comfort. There was no connection when we were talking on FaceTime. And so I was really longing that sense of connection, especially when there was all these issues that was going on at home. And as soon as I met this person, there was that connection that I was gaining back in person. One thing led to another, and I made a very, very big mistakes, and I cheated. I cheated on my boyfriend at a time with this person who looked very similar to my boyfriend at the time. This is why I call it comfort food confession. Really messed up topic, but the food's just so good, it makes me forget what I'm talking about. And I knew that the relationship I was in was not okay. On top of what I was doing to my boyfriend at the time was not okay. But there was just this weird sense of comfort that just keep pushing me to do it. And that version of me was not okay. It was very messed up, very wrong. Eventually, I ended that relationship and told my boyfriend everything. At one point, I was even thinking, well, he doesn't have to know about this. If he doesn't know about this, then we don't have any problem. I was just gonna keep lying to his face, and this was never going to come to light. But I couldn't take the guilt of knowing what I did and seeing him, FaceTiming him every day. And so I ended the relationship I was cheating on him with and told him everything I knew, everything I did, everything. He was mad and very upset, rightfully so, but we ended up still staying together. He told me that the reason why he decided to stay is because he took part of the blame in why I cheated, because he felt like he wasn't giving me enough attention, and maybe that was part of the reason why I stray. So he's like, you know what? This is not okay, but I'm going to stay because I took part of the blame on this. And I just want to say to anyone who is currently in this situation, who went through this situation, it is never, ever your fault if your partner was unfaithful. Don't even try to justify their actions. It was their choice. Whatever the reason was, it was their choice. It was them who decided to do this. Looking back at it now, I was really clinging to that hope that maybe it would work out between us in the end. It was really messed up that I didn't even bother to try to tell him like, hey, it's really not your fault. I didn't even bother owning up to the mistake that I did because I was really trying to stay with him, and it made me happy that he didn't leave. And so I was clinging on to his reasoning that he was somehow at fault about this, and that was really wrong. That was really messed up. To anyone who's going through this situation or went past it and is questioning yourself, do not question yourself. It's never your fault. Just know that it's never, ever your fault. After that confession I had with my boyfriend at the time, a few months went by. We were pretending that everything was okay. We were just trying to rebuild and pick up the pieces that I broke. And then I met another boy. Lo and behold, I started doing the same damn thing. Started talking, felt like he was cute, and I was just started to stray again. Part of it was because what I was looking for in a relationship is that physical connection, just being able to hug, kiss, cuddle, spend time with the other person. And although that did not excuse anything that I did, it was just why. It was the reason behind what was pushing me into just keep seeking the other relationship and just ignore what I had. We hung out a lot, and my boyfriend, of course, started catching on again. We had each other's location, but whenever he asked me, I remember this one time I was going over to his place. My boyfriend was like, hey, what were you doing there? And I was like, oh, I was just like getting boba because there was like a boba store nearby. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know why like location would do that. I don't know why they would like put me in this weird spot. I was at the boba shop. Like, hello? Like, hello? Like, if I could go back and smack the shit out of that person, like who I was, I would do it. Come on now, you're better than this. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do that, and the past is now the past, and I cannot change anything about it. All I could do is just own up to all of the messed up thing that I did. I was neglecting the spaghetti. Eventually, my boyfriend called me out on it. Of course he found out. I was a terrible liar. I'm still a terrible liar. But he called me out. He was rightfully, royally pissed. And that's when it ends. That's when we decided, you know what, this is not working out anymore. We were pretending that everything was back to normal while it was never going to go back to the way it was. And he said something that stuck with me. He said, I should have never spent that much money on you. Not you broke my heart, not you hurt me. It was just about the money. Here is what I've learned and what I really want you to know. To reiterate what I said earlier, if you've ever gone through something like this, if you are currently going through something like this, and you've been a victim of your partner being unfaithful, it is never, ever your fault. Like, I cannot say this enough, that no matter how hard the other person's trying to gaslight you to think that, oh, you were being too needy, I was busy, I was being too busy, why did you miss a few calls? Like, why did you do that? Or why did you not give me enough attention? Like, hello? Cheating is a choice, and it's a choice that the other person decided to go through with. It has nothing to do with you. I'm going to reiterate that it's never, ever your fault. And you stand your ground, leave that relationship, and I really wish you the best. Another thing I would like to touch on is people like to say, once a cheater, always a cheater. I've heard this multiple times, and I just want to give my 2 cents on it. You know, people have their own personal experience. Other people might not end up like me, but just my 2 cents that I don't believe in that phrase that once a cheater, always a cheater, because I have been a faithful wife. I love my husband dearly, and I could never imagine myself doing things like that again. I could never imagine myself putting my husband through that pain and misery. That version of me that was years ago does not exist anymore. Circling back to my husband, he knows the story. I even run by him this idea that I really want to do like a little mukbang confession. He told me that if I acted like it wasn't my fault, then we would not be here today. It was the fact that I acknowledged that what I did was messed up and it was very wrong, and I grew from it. I take accountability and I promise to myself and to my husband that I would never do something like that again. If I never feel like what I did was wrong, then that's not the kind of person that he wants to spend the rest of his life with. And that's totally fair. And I'm totally with him on that. For me, accountability is everything. It was everything in this situation. It's the fact that I owned up to it, that what I did was really wrong and messed up. And I'm willing to fix it, and I'm willing to put myself in order and to never do something like that again. We are not the worst thing we've done, but who you choose to be after. Thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story resonates with you, I'm very happy, and I really hope that it helps you find your way through this terrible situation that you're in. Just know that you're not alone and you can get through this. And I wish you best of luck. I wish you the best healing journey after this terrible misery that you have to go through. And yeah, thank you so much for sitting here and listening to my story today. Please like, share, and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, I'm gonna chow down on this little Porto's chocolate croissant. Feel free to stick around, but if not, then I will see you on the next video. Let me know in the comment. What is your confession story? I told mine, maybe. If it's something that's weighing on your mind and you just want to let it out, comment section is wide open, sister. Last bite.